Alex Bailey, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you. Alex, you are on deck.
Finally.
I know, right?
Yeah,
it was great to see you. You know, of course, we're just chit-chatting here, but you were here on Friday. It was good to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
Glad to hear things are going well for you and your family.
Absolutely. Same for you as well.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I know you've gone a little break right now, right?
Just about, yes. Yeah. Yep, starts on Sunday. We have a sabbatical, if you will.
Sabbatical, okay.
I think that's what it's called, right?
Yeah. Take a little step away and a little break from whatever it is. So
it's going to be 100% grind time around here.
Yeah. I know that. That's like a typical everyday thing now. So
right.
Yeah. You have to, especially in 2021. Everything that's been happening, you can't afford to take your foot off the gas right now. You know,
it's funny. I was thinking the other day, about holidays and weekends, and don't get me wrong. I like to have a day off here and there and take time off, but man, just being able to get up every day and still do something that you love.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what day it is to me. Like, I don't feel like if there was nothing going on Sunday and it meant come in here and do some work, great.
Right. Hey, some people get it, some people don't.
Right.
And then for some people, it's just it's too much for them. I mean, I know that I am a serial workaholic. My wife hates that about me, but it's when you have a vision and a goal and you're ambitious and you're dedicated to seeing it through and making sure it happens. Time means nothing to you in terms of, hey, I've been at this for 12 hours. I should probably take a break. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that my days roll right into each other.
Well, and I agree. And before we barrel down that course, because sure. I think we should, I think it would be a good time to, introduce, Alex Bailey. You are, you worked at the agency at one point in time, did a great job as a graphic designer, and you have moved on to create your own company, Blieve Media, which I think it's a great name. I really like it. It's very reflective of you and your positive outlook and positive, just the way you approach everything, which I think it's great. So
thank you.
I want to kind of start there by making sure we introduce who you are and what you do. You are an entrepreneur in the creative space, and that is why you're able to put in 12-hour days and go, yeah, I could do some more.
Yeah,
right?
That's nothing.
So tell me a little bit about your business and how it's going.
Sure. So Blieve Media is all about content creation. In this day and age, social media, advertising, that's the way to go. So people are running ads. People want to tell their brand story. People want to sell. And what I've learned is that you can have a great product, but no one cares about that. They want to be able to connect with your brand. What does your story mean to them? So our job here at Blieve Media is really to focus on telling brand stories and helping them to connect with their target audience. So whether it be a quick Instagram reel, or it's a full-blown 30-second commercial, or a 15-second ad, whatever it may be, it has to get to the point, tell their story, and engage their audience. So all of our creative is focused on that. So we're passionate about what we do, creating videos, creating great photography that kind of tells a story. And it's not just, hey, slap a filter on it and it looks good. Right. It's got to tell some story. So,
well, and in addition to having been a graphic designer, I know that what led you into this was, your love of photography, and then ultimately branching out into videography as well too. Yep. Now you've got like the triple threat, right? I mean, you can design, you can shoot in both areas, and you're able to bring in your own business, that's everything. Because I know we were talking the other day, and you were like, "Man, no, business is really good right now," and really glad to hear that. And I'd be curious to hear from you how are you able to transition from a full-time job working for a company, and then taking that leap into doing your own thing, and then here a year and a half later, I think it was about
roughly 2 years.
Yeah, roughly 2 years. Now being at the point where this business is I assume helping to sustain your family and growing, and you're at the point now where it's like, okay, what do I do with this?
It's been a wild ride. I mean, like any entrepreneur, there's ups and downs. The name of the game. What was challenging about my journey was that I started, I think 3 months before we went into quarantine. Yeah. So that kind of set a really weird tone going into it, and there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding that, obviously. But the transition for me going from full time to working full time for another company to doing my own thing, It was, for me, it was years in the progress, and it was years in the making. I've been a creative since, I don't know, since I was a kid. I used to be an architect major at one point in time. I made music, poetry, you name it. I have to get my hands on something and create something. That's just kind of my MO. So I've always wanted to build something that was mine, to be able to leave a legacy behind for my family, and to look back and say, hey, this is the gifts that I was given, and this is what I did with it. I didn't just sit on them and waste them. So I've always wanted to create. So when I had this opportunity to step out and say, hey, look, Blieve Media, this is what I want to do. This is the direction I want to go in. It was almost like all the stars finally aligned for the opportunity that I've been working towards for so many years. And I took a leap of faith, hence the name Blieve Media. We can get into that, later. But I took a leap of faith and said, hey, look, I don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. I don't know if I'm going to succeed or not. I just know that this is what I want to do. And everything else has to line up. As long as I'm consistent, I put the hard work in, everything else has to line up. So that was really the transition. I had a good set of clients on me before I went into full time. And then going into quarantine, it was just about finding creative ways to keep business going and sustaining. And I think I've successfully been able to do that. And I've actually had more business going into the quarantine, now versus like when the quarantine first started. So obviously things are going well. Content creation doesn't stop. Businesses wanting to market and advertise them, that doesn't stop despite the global pandemic. If anything, they want more of that stuff now in order to continue to push their business, because now the landscape has changed. So, I've done pretty good for myself, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, congratulations, man. I'm really happy to hear that. I think that's great. And I think, there's a lot in what you just said, particularly for young men and women who are at that point where they say, okay, this is what I have to do, right? I'm going to take the leap, not certain how it's going to turn out, but I have to do it, right? And not everybody has the courage to do that. And for those that do, they're still on the other side of that leap. 800 questions, and how do I do this and how do I do that? So my question to you is, how have you been able to nurture and cultivate new business? Because that's, listen, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you can't go out and get a client or maintain a client or get a referral for another, you got nothing. So absolutely. How are you able to do that? Where do you start there?
It's all about it's really all about utilizing your relationships that you have with people and creating good relationships with people. And if I could be honest with you and totally transparent, I didn't do much marketing in the very beginning. It wasn't until late last year, early this year, I really started paying attention more to, okay, let's get the business name out there. Let's put some ads out there. I didn't do much marketing. Most of my business, I would say 95% of my business came from referrals from past clients or other individuals I've worked with in general or in proximity to. They just liked my work ethic more than anything else. Not to be that guy, but my work is good enough to say, hey, I want to hire this guy. I love this work. I get that all the time. But I think what brings people back or referring me to other people is literally the experience they have once we get on set to shoot whatever. Again, I'm one of the easiest going guys you'll ever meet. And I think that is one of my biggest strengths. When the pressure is on and it gets tough on set or the talent shows up late or whatever the case may be, I'm just like chill the entire time. And I think my clients see that. And it helps them to take a little of their edge off and their anxiety, because, hey, if the guy who does this for a living is relaxed, why should I, panic?
Where does that come from for you? That sense of calm, not,
If I had to attribute it to someone or something, I'd have to say probably my dad. He's got this very just calm demeanor about him at all times. In my family, we come from a very spiritual, and I won't say religious, but very spiritual background. They're the Bible and the scripture, they talk about all the time about just how, Jesus sat on a boat in the middle of a hurricane, and it's just like relaxing and not making a big deal about it. My dad's told me that story so many times growing up, and it's one thing for him to just tell me, but I physically see that in him. He's always just level-headed and calm, and he talks to me about being able to make good decisions when you're in that place versus being anxious or overly excited about something or nervous or worried and not making the right decision because you're not all collected, you're not there. You know what I mean? So I think that's where that stems from, just seeing him like that all my life. And now that I'm an adult and having to make tough decisions, I've realized that it's easier for me to make decisions or have more clarity when I'm level-headed and calm. So
it's, I'm glad you said that. That is, that's a powerful lesson for anybody at this point in time, and certainly one that you were able to not only receive from your dad in the form of words and him sharing, stories from the scripture, but also to see, right? To see that example.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to hear the words, right? It's another thing when you're around an example that you can see and feel and experience, right?
Absolutely.
So how amazing is that for you that, you step out on your own in what some people would say would have been the worst time to do that.
For sure.
To be able to have the calm clarity of mind to say, I'm going to be fine. Yeah, a storm is raging.
For sure.
It's
like I heard this I don't know if it was a quote, but I heard a little anecdote from an author, and they were saying that most authors don't know the middle of the story. They only know the beginning and the end. So for me, I already knew what I wanted my end to look like. I already know what I wanted my outcome to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the details in between, and I can't worry about that right now. I just know that at the end of this road, I see what the big picture is, the big vision is, and I'm confident in that. So confident that I took the leap of faith, knowing that if I jump off here, I'm still going to land here, wherever that needs to be.
What's the big vision? If you were to, let's hear the end of the road. What's the end of the road?
I'll admit it's evolved since starting this, but ultimately, I want to be an internationally known media company. I want to start shooting short films. Okay, let me not say right now. Long term, filmmaking. I wanted to get in cinematography for such a long time now, so I want to be known as a studio that does everything: animations, big box movies, commercials for BMW, whatever the case may be. I want to be that media powerhouse that delivers on every end. One thing about me that a lot of people will tell you, that I'm a jack of all trades. I know a little bit about everything when it comes to the production stuff. So, I've recognized I can't master it all, obviously, but I want to create a company that can put in place the right team that can be able to deliver all those things, work on big sets. Like, that's the goal. I want to be that company. Yeah, so
that's great.
That's the goal.
That's a beautiful big vision.
Thank you.
And it's accomplishable.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
I mean, it really is. I mean, and some people would listen to that and say, man, that's a big one. It is and it isn't, right? And I think it's great that you've got a very clear big goal for yourself, because, and they change over time, as you said,
sure,
right?
For sure.
My big goals have changed over time too. I shared, a good degree of my big goal with you and some of the other guys on Friday. And it's important to paint that picture, and so I asked you, like, can you see it? Can you see what your life looks like there?
Oh yeah, for sure. My mom laughs every time I say this to her, but she always asks me, like, what I want to do for work, long term, and I always tell her I want to work less and make more. And she laughs. Like, just to give you a backstory. So my parents migrated to this country from Jamaica when I was maybe 3 years old.
Okay.
So it's in our nature, in our culture, to work hard until the day you die. And for me, I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's fine.
Right.
But, I want more than that. I want to be able to enjoy some of that stuff. So, how do you do that? I want to work less, make more money, and be able to create my future and my outcome. So, that's really the goal. If I'm working less, making more money, then that frees up time to do other things.
But is it working less or working different? Because you don't strike me as the kind of guy who's just going to set it down, right? I mean, you strike me as the kind of guy that, as you continue to build this, right, and you find those people to fill those spots for you, right?
Yeah.
And then hopefully they help to lift you up.
For sure.
You work changes, and you do work less to a degree.
For sure.
But you're working on different stuff. And
that's exactly where I was
going. Your
going.
mind is doing a lot of the work.
That's exactly where I was going. So when I said, like, you can free up time to be able to work on other things, I have other ventures outside of this that I want to get more involved into.
Right.
I just don't have the time. So how do you do that? You create more time. And I do that by putting the proper team in place to be able to free up some of that time that's locked right now. And now I can venture off to creating the next revenue stream of whatever that may be. You know what I mean? So that's always the name of the game. Retire at 40, five streams of revenue, and that's it. Simple. It's simple.
It's practically done, right?
Right. I mean, it's no brainer.
It is practically done. What have you found? What have you found? I got two questions. What surprised you the most about getting out there and doing it on your own, and what have you found most challenging? So two questions there.
So what surprised me about going full time, I think what surprised me the most was how important marketing was. Coming from a guy with a marketing degree, I know
who's helping other people market.
It's kind of funny, right?
Right.
So it's weird because my job is to help other people market their business, like you say. So then to turn around and say, hey, well, how am I marketing my own business so that people know that? That's the biggest surprise, but also the biggest challenge, all in one. And marketing is tough. Like, you're trying to sell something without physically being in front of someone. You're trying to show someone your perception of your own value and impose that on them so they do feel comfortable spending their money with you. That's tough. In a day and age, especially when we're in a global pandemic and people are holding their dollars tight to them, and then businesses are being more meticulous about what they spend their money on, your job as a marketer or marketing your own business is that much more challenging and complex to show them that value. So I think that has been the biggest surprise. Not realizing, I think, again, going into it, I'm figuring, hey, pass out a few flyers and they'll know about your business in no time. Post a couple times on Instagram a week and you're good to go, right?
Right, yeah. They're going to be
knocking on the door, basically begging for this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big shock. And then obviously the most challenging part of that is how do you adapt and how do you get your company name out there and show people what you can do and get your foot in the door, essentially. That was the biggest challenge, for sure.
What do you enjoy most about it right now?
From a business standpoint of owning my own business, what I enjoy most is being able to pick and choose what I want to work on. Yeah. For sure. There are times where, you got to do what you have to do. So there's jobs that, I'm doing this because, hey, look, I promised I would, I said I would, and this is what you've contracted us to do. But it's not the passion. I don't have that passion for certain things that I would have for others. So I've had people come to me and say, hey, I have this project. I have some money. Here's my budget. Can we do this? And I have the freedom to say, hey, honestly, it's not in our wheelhouse, or we don't have the capacity for it right now, or we just don't want to do it, whatever the case may be. So having the freedom to say, hey, I'm only working on stuff that I'm passionate about, that when I get up, I know that because I'm passionate about this, I'm going to put 110% in this and not just 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes such a difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. So when a client comes, obviously, if they're paying clients, you're going to get 100% of our business, obviously. But there are some projects that are just near and dear that you go to sleep thinking about them and wake up the next morning. I'm like, I can't wait to get back to the computer and edit this. Like, those are the projects I love. I love to get on those. So I'm very much a project worker myself, right? Now, those projects could be any number of things, right? Like right now, the project is like it's physical assembly of stuff, right? Right.
But I'm the same way. Like I become absolutely like obsessed by it.
Yep.
In a good way, where I'm constantly thinking about revisiting my notes, thinking about this, thinking about that piece, and then you go through that, and it feels good to complete it, and have rest, or just be able to step away for a little bit, and then get excited and fired up about whatever the next project is.
Absolutely,
it's very satisfying.
I was just about to say, you feel fulfilled after that's all said and done.
Yes, because you went from kind of having nothing. To an idea, to starting to plan it out, and then literally building it out.
Right, and that's the most exciting part to me, is like starting from scratch. Like you said, come up with a concept, execute, and then here's the final product. Yeah, so, love it.
It's a great way to live life, to be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned, when you were younger, you wrote poetry and drew and music and all this stuff. Where did the creative spark start for you, Alex?
Honestly, I have no idea. It's just when I think about it, it's always been a part of me. I've always been this way. So I honestly don't know where that kind of stemmed from. I do remember being like 10 or 11 years old, something like that. I used to spend summers in New York with family, and my cousin introduced me to The Sims. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yes.
So yeah, where you could
create like a simulated city or something.
Right. They evolved it to the point where you can build your own home, and you're like running a family from like a day-to-day operation base. So the whole game, the whole point of it was to create a family or a life, or one person, whatever it may be, and see their life through from inception all the way to death. That was the whole purpose of the game. I spent my time building houses in the game every single time. I never even played with the family. I literally spent 3 or 4 hours just designing houses, seeing how I can make it more efficient. When I started seeing that they were taking too long to walk from the bathroom to the living room, started condensing and changing things around. And that is like the earliest time that I can really remember putting in time and effort into creating something and looking at design as a problem solving solution. You know what I mean? And that's literally where it started from what I could think of. And from there, it just turned into, hey, I want to be an architect major.
Really? So you literally were looking at okay, it takes from this long to get from here to there. So you're looking for all these efficiencies in your design. But
that's the thing, though. I didn't realize I was doing that. Not at 10 or 11 years old.
Right.
In my mind, I just thought it was common sense. Like, I'm watching the characters walk from the front door to the kitchen, and I'm looking at how long it takes to get there, and I'm like, this is a little long. Let me change something up here. Let me condense this hallway. Or there are times where, and they do it still in architecture now, where there's like a thing of dead space. It's literally the shape of a triangle. If you ever look at the plan, the blueprints of the plan on the plan, it's literally a triangle, and they use that to basically take away dead space. And every time I ran into that situation, I was like, well, this is a waste of space. We got to figure out some way to use this. And that's literally what I was doing at 11 years old. So yeah, it kind of stemmed from that. It's cool. Weird, I know.
No, it's not. It reminds me of my first creative love, which was Legos.
Nice.
And I had a bunch. This was like before you would get like the Star Wars Lego set. You just got Legos, right? And on the box, there'd be like a picture of a house, or you could make a tree, like you made whatever. Just a bunch of blocks. And I literally would sit in my room as a kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and just build and build and build. And it was the same thing. It was like, okay, at first you've got all these colors and all these pieces, and I'd build a house. And then I look at the house, I'm like, well, I got a yellow block here, I got a red block here. That doesn't make any sense. Take it apart. This is the red layer, this is the yellow. And just constantly that art of refining as well too. And I think that's where I developed my sense of like enjoying building a project, right? Like, right. Imagine it.
And I think
put it together.
Even to your point, I think that, we as adults now, I guess, look back at those things as just toys, but I really think those things are made to help kids problem solve and and look at design from a different standpoint and being creative from a different standpoint. It's not just about making artsy stuff. It's also designing with a purpose. I don't know if you remember Connects even.
I think so.
It was like the next step up right after Legos. That was the next thing that they made. And it was like these weird, like they connected at the joints. It was a really weird thing.
Yeah, I think so.
But same thing, same concept. It was problem solving. You had to figure out what pieces fit together in order to make your design or whatever it was you're working on.
So many people, struggle to find, their thing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a lot do. And I often think, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's like, what did you love to do as a kid? Like, think of the things that you love to do, right? Yeah. Did you love to draw? Did you love to, design? Did you love to build these things? Like, did you love to ride your bike? Whatever. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a bike rider for the rest of your life, but so many adults move away from the things that they love doing as children and don't do anymore. And I just think that that's a terrible mistake, Now, we all discover things as we grow along the way too that are meaningful new additions to our life. But I still love to ride my bike. I still love to play my guitar. I still love designing projects and piecing them together. And that's all from things that I learned in childhood, like you're talking about.
Yeah. It's strange to me that I think that, not to get that deep into the conversation, but I do think that society has a weird way of raising us. I think that we've changed our views on a lot of things. Like you said, like growing up now as an adult, it's sometimes some people look at it as, hey, this guy is 30 years old or whatever, and he's playing video games still, or he's playing an instrument and he'll never make it in a band, or whatever the case may be, or he's got hoop dreams. I feel like we've lost the ability to dream and to think outside of the box. And I think that's the problem. I think that we are taught to, hey, this is as big as you can go. Here is your capacity given to you. You know what I mean? And now, and on top of that, it's this mindset of, hey, this is what being an adult looks like, and it's different for everyone. You know what I mean?
Wow, you've touched on a lot of really great stuff here.
Sorry.
Good. Why? No. This is what this whole deal is about. So number one, yes, unfortunately, a lot of people, men and women all around the world, have, I don't want to say fallen victim to, because there's lots of people that maybe didn't love what they did, but they were still able to be productive work, earn a living for their family, put their kids through school, whatever it is. And I will never disrespect that.
For sure.
The people, men and women, no matter what they do, that they get up every day and do something because that's what they need to do to productive and handle their family business all day long. I have nothing but respect for that.
For sure.
And at the same time, a lot of those people did not feel the safety, the courage, or whatever to pursue other things. And you can look at that and say, you can look at this as twofold. So just give me a second here. I'm going to kind of lay this out there. And so there's two sides to this. The one is there's a system in place that limits people's thinking about what they can accomplish, right?
Absolutely.
And so let's just say that that's true. Then there's two ways to look at it. The one way is that it's intentionally designed to limit people's thinking. Or the other one is it's intentionally designed to create a workforce, a reasonably educated workforce, right?
Right.
And I would be willing to bet that there's truth in both sides of that, right?
For sure.
If you're leading the world or running a country or whatever, and you need an educated, well-rounded workforce, then you would go about it the way that it has been done for, not now as much, but the way it's been done for the last 50, 100 years.
Right.
You grow up, you go to school, you follow these checkpoints. It's only now, it seems like, in the last particularly 10 years with social media and the internet, not that those are dated exactly to 10 years, but there's been this explosion of opportunity for people to be, A, number one, believe they can, and B, see the ability to do what you're doing.
Right.
To do what I do, to do what many people around the world do, which is like, you know what, this is what I love, and I can make something of this out of my own because all of the tools that I need, or most of the tools that I need, are right here at my fingertips. They're on this laptop, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on the internet, learning, developing, and we're living in a very exciting time now where now there's this big shift, right? And I hope that we'll continue to see that, which I think in a way is a big form of liberating freedom for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. One of the things that I think has shifted is the barrier to entry. I mean, there's almost no excuse nowadays to not pursue after the things you want to. It's so much easier now because of how much access we have to information. I mean, just look at YouTube alone. If you want to learn anything, all you have to have is the appetite for it. The information is there. Before, yeah, sure, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, you'd have to go look in the library and hopefully no one rented out the book already.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now the access to information is there. There's zero excuse not to pursue after knowledge and to learn whatever it is you want to learn and start doing what it is you really want to do. And I think I'm committed that you can have it all. I can have a successful business that is, sustaining itself and sustaining my family. And I can also do work that I'm passionate about and enjoy and feel fulfilled when I come home at night. You know what I mean? I don't think you have to pick or choose. And going back to what you said earlier about, having respect for those people who, sacrifice their passion in order to take care of home. That is the right choice for me. Ultimately, if Blieve Media wasn't doing as well as I needed it to do or it's doing now, hey, I'm back online filling out job applications. No problem. Because at the end of the day, it's not just me I'm worrying about, Right. So, I just think that you can have it all. You don't have to sacrifice, your happiness for contentment, essentially, I know some people might look at me kind of funny about that.
Yeah, no, that's an adult, that's a mature adult way of looking at it, right? Yeah. It is to recognize the blessing and opportunity that you have to be able to do something really free and liberating and that fulfills your passions and all that, but also knowing that, if shit hit the fan and you had to go do something else, that's what you do, right? Like that's part of the human existence is not every minute and every person gets to have everything that they want, right? You've got to go through some trials and tribulations, which I think, again, we're going through as a planet right now. We're going through as a species. Not sure, where it all leads at the moment, but I certainly know even now that we've had more people working from home, more people with a little bit more time to investigate some other things, right? More people with time to access all the information that's out there. I think we're going to continue to see this ongoing development of individuals, creating their own business and doing their own thing. Now, at some point in time, is there sort of like that? Can that get out of balance where there's too much of that and not enough of just the core people doing work that needs to be done? I would imagine, there's got to be some balance there. I don't know that you or I will figure out what the quotient is on that at this point in time, but it's that's part of the evolution of our species, is this constant learning and growth.
Right, for sure. And we have to change as the seasons change. Like every day, every week is new information, new developments, things are changing. So we just have to keep up with the times. I mean, I know one of the big things when COVID hit was the freelance market blew up. Everyone started working from home, doing more freelance work to supplement income for those who took a hit, So, what does the workforce look like, on the tail end of COVID when it comes to the whole freelance market? Are we hiring out more people, or, what happens next? What's the next thing?
Yeah, I would think that it's logical to think that there will be a lot more freelance work and working with, with people who own their own businesses for different things, rather than feeling the need to have that person be on your payroll, a W-2 employee with benefits and an office and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It is proven now that that's not necessary to get work done, right? There's a million other ways, and we're so connected that you can. So, yeah, I would imagine, but again, that will ebb and flow, because not all of those people will have all of the tools and knowledge at their disposal to know how to maintain that on their own, right? Just because you've been able to step out and be successful in business. Last week, John Saunders, from where we're recording this, it'll be 2 weeks ago by the time you hit the air. But, you guys have been successful, right? I've been successful, but not everybody is, because, it's not easy to sustain a business over time.
Right.
And so I guess we'll see, we'll see how it goes. But it's just such a cool time. We've got a young lady who works here at the agency, and she just recently started her swimwear line. And, her designs are here, the manufacturing's there, the shipping is here, and she's like a year out of college, running her business from a laptop, on awesome. The side while she's working here, doing a great job. And that's the kind of stuff, and she's marketing it herself and doing that and doing the right things. And that's what's available now, right?
I think that's awesome.
Which is, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So you mentioned how difficult it can be to own your own business, or, whatever the case may be, your own company. What do you do? How do you manage How do you manage Chris when it comes to, just making sure you're there mentally? When you check out of work and you go home, how do you recoup, reset, recharge?
It's still hard. I'm going to give you my on paper answer, right? My on paper answer is plenty of rest, plenty of water,
vegetables,
good eating, and extreme training.
Okay.
Right? Riding the bike, running, swimming, weights, like all those, doing that religiously, almost to a level of obsession, helps with everything else, right? Because number one, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your physical being. And I'm saying this, I said on paper because I'm not living it right now. I'm not walking the walk.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking it, and I'm preparing to be walking it, but I'm not walking it right now. And I know without a doubt that it makes a difference. So it's the taking care of your physical self, alcohol at a minimum, that kind of stuff, because that throws you off track.
Yeah.
So it's taking care of yourself. That puts your mind in a better place. When your mind is in, the Alex Bailey calm in the center of the storm place, then you're in a much better position to deal with all that other stuff. Because just because you had a tough day at work doesn't mean you're walking home into paradise.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're walking home into, the other side of your family's bad day, right? And if those two energies meet, right, they're not always going to be so friendly when they introduce to each other. So being in that calm state of mind allows you to better recognize, like, well, okay, we got some shit going on here. Yeah. I need to be helpful, right? Again, I'm saying this on paper because these are things that I still, balance through. But ultimately, it's that physical care. It's taking care of your body and your mind to the best of your ability, getting the rest that helps you approach all the other stuff. Other things that I'm starting to learn better is how to say no. Like, no, I don't want to do that.
That's a good one.
That's
a good one.
I don't want, I don't want to do that. Time is so precious and so valuable that to spend 2 or 3 hours doing something that is not meaningful or productive, and if you do it in the back of your mind, you're like, fuck, I don't want to be doing this right now.
Yeah, just wasn't worth it.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's some of that, but I mean, I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever gonna arrive or reach. It's always, because the landscape is always changing. You also have to change with it, and in that, you're learning new parts of yourself. You're learning, hey, you know what? I spent the last 10 years DPing on all these films. I realized I'd rather be behind the computer editing. I don't know. But, I just think that, like you said, protecting the mental, protecting the physical, and making sure all that stuff is, working 100% of the time will give you the ability to make the proper decisions when the time comes. So I get that. I get that.
That's the number one thing I'm doing this summer. That is number one, is every day is like, okay, the majority of the day is dedicated largely to that. Another thing, and you mentioned spirituality before and stuff, and I just like, you said that, there's like no destination or there's no end of the line, right? Like, and my belief is that, your spirit, your soul, has existed and has been growing and developing long before we entered this physical body, and it will hopefully continue to do so afterwards. So this, this human life, we can be like, well, I started here and it ends there, and here's all the stuff that I have to do in between, and that's who I am, and that's what I am. That's who you are and what you are, maybe for this like slice of your spiritual existence, if you will. And it's all a process, I believe, of fundamentally building your spirit and soul over a potentially everlasting period of time. Right. So these things, that you're passionate about and that you're learning now, they suit this stage of your development, just as these do for mine. That, another, if there's an afterlife or another life or whatever, then it could be something completely different, all collecting like this.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I want to say about a week ago, I spoke to, my best friend called me and was telling me about some scripture about the gifts that, God gives us, or whatever the case may be. But the conversation was more towards the fact that everything that is in you right now, everything that makes you, that makes you this great entrepreneur, that makes you this great business person, this great creative, it's a spirit that's passed down through generations. There very well could be a spirit of Picasso living in you. The whole idea was that, like, this isn't something new. This thing that you have in you, this spirit's been around for centuries. You just happen to get bitten by it. So what do you do with it? Do you sit on these gifts or use them to create? And back to your point, I mean, in that sense, in that regard, we're always going to be developing our soul and feeding our soul and moving on. Whether, I mean, it all depends on what you believe in, obviously. But, the thought of, hey, look, I'm living in the shadow almost of someone else someone great that came before me. I have a responsibility to do something with it. So...
Interesting. That's a different perspective and one that I've not considered before. And it is interesting because, it makes me think of a Tony Robbins, something he said in that, like, whatever you think you're going through or experiencing that you might feel like you are totally alone in, it's happened literally to millions of people. The same exact feeling, the same exact fear, the same exact struggle, the same exact joy. You're never alone, right? Like in what you might think that you're experiencing, because there's been countless millions of people that have experienced the same thing. Absolutely. And that there can be strength in recognizing that and feeling comfortable that no, you're not. you're not the only one experiencing this, right? And there's a solution.
Right.
There's a solution. Like I've learned later in life that I just find, and this is from being in business now for 15 years, is there's always a way. There is always a way. Whenever like something challenging comes, and you're like, oh fuck, what, you know, and your first reaction is like anger or fear, or you get pissed, or you're upset or whatever, and then it's like, if you can detach yourself from that and just be like, there's a solution here.
Just gotta find
I might not like it, right?
Yeah.
Or it might be totally fine, but there's always a way.
For sure. It comes out to reality. Are you willing to accept whatever the solution is?
That's the hard thing.
That's the kicker right there.
Yeah. Yep. We've got a couple situations right now. One which we were filming for a client, TV commercials, and this might be valuable to you, or you might already be smart enough to know not to do what we did, but we were filming down in Wynwood.
Okay.
And we shot some beautiful shots in front of some beautiful murals, and you know, just you're rolling. I mean, the stuff's everywhere. You don't think about it. Well, we got a cease and desist.
Yep.
You know, from an attorney representing the artist, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, it wasn't on our mind at the time. There's no nefarious thoughts here. Like when you're in Wynwood, there's art everywhere. So it's sort of like, it's just part of the natural landscape, as if it were trees and a lake, right?
Right.
That just happens to be the look of the environment. However, this environment is created by artists, right? And so, you know, they've brought this up, and we, the agency, are going to end up being the one financially responsible for it, right? And it's just one of those deals where you're like, fuck, you know, yeah, I mean, had it been a song, I would have never used anybody else's song.
Naturally.
You wouldn't use anybody else's video, right? And this was just something that, because it's part of the landscape, it didn't pop to mind, but, oh yeah, you know, and so you have these little tuition things along the way when you're in business where you, and then, you know, they always pop up. And again, I don't like it. You know, it's going to cost us a few bucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lesson learned.
Right. We won't make that mistake again.
No, definitely not. I've had one, this was obviously early on in the beginning of Blieve, but we had one production we had, planned it for the day, talent's there, clients there, everyone's there, and the city of Davie police pulled up and basically kicked us off premises because we didn't have a permit. And that was the first and only lesson I needed to learn about pulling permits in advance, for sure.
No more running and gunning.
Yeah, no more running and gunning. I was so used to doing that prior to, when I wasn't like...
Are you kidding me? We're still like honing down on that to be done with it, because we've been running and gunning for car commercials forever.
Yeah. That's one of those things you just don't think about. But,
right.
you know, obviously it's a huge detriment, a setback when, you know, you've got 2 or 3 days shoot set up, and you go out there and now you're scrambling looking for a new location. Yeah. It looks super unprofessional. And after that, I was like, well, we're going to have to pull like permits at least a month in advance to make sure never having this situation again. You know, it's the nature of retail automotive advertising and marketing is it's so fast paced. It's so cyclical. Yeah. Not that others aren't, but it was like every month, you remember, like every month it's the new thing, it's the new this, it's the new that. So you're just like, you know, to suggest to a dealer that we're going to plan their commercial 6 months in advance and we got to pull permits, it just doesn't happen, because half the time the ideas for whatever you're going to do happen the week before it's going on the air, right? So then you're hustling, and so I allowed us to just operate in that crazy last minute, and I hate to say this, but I'm still a last minute guy to some degree, because there's something about, okay, there is now a limited amount of time to get this done. Right. The pressure is on, and for whatever reason, that turns me on. No, I'm the same way. And I get going, and I always get it done. I've never missed a deadline. Never. Right. In all these years, never like fumbled a big deadline or anything, because whatever it is, that pressure kicks in. Yeah. But you operate that way, but you can't do what we're doing now anymore. You can't do it that way. No. You just can't. It's dumb, and it wears everybody else out. For sure. It might work for you. I know it works for me, but I know everybody around me is like, oh fuck. And I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that I've learned, that because I'm so accustomed to that, that's what I do. So when I have a client right now, for example, he's an artist, he's looking to make music videos, all that stuff. He doesn't give me the concept of what we're shooting until the day of. When I show up on location, is the first time I'm seeing the location, and I love it. It gives me an opportunity to say, hey, this is a real challenge. Got to figure out how to make this look good given the circumstance. We're telling a story that I'm making up on the fly.
But see, that's the improvisational creative juices that get flowing in those moments. And it's like fucking jazz, man. If you know what you're doing, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
But then you give me like 45 days to plan something, and I'm just like, it's too much time.
I'm the same way. Well, I mean, I told you on Friday, and Greg and everybody else, like, okay, here's the stuff we want to shoot. And I mean, I've been talking about this agency video now for at least a month, maybe 6 weeks. I mean, I got a few notes.
Yeah.
That's okay. But it's not, because, we've got a limited time to get this accomplished, and this is not going to be like, it just can't be a let's show up and figure it out kind of deal, right? It can't.
Yeah.
And because there's no like impending deadline pressure, it's something that's easy for me to be like, well,
push off.
This is something I need to get done sooner, so I'm on this, right? But I'm with you, man. Like, I think that would be amazing. Like, you show up, like, that's half of the fun of the run and gun shooting style, right? Is that like you get there and you're like, all right, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Hey, what do we got? What are we working with?
It looks good over there. Let's do it. And before you know it, you're doing it, and then you get the result. And everybody's excited.
Yeah, that's a great feeling, knowing that you only had 30 minutes to set up and figure out your story, whatever it's going to be, and then your end product looks like you planned this 6 months ago in advance. It's a great feeling. I feel accomplished. Yeah.
I agree. There's something, I think there's something, obviously, well, not obviously, amongst creative people that are going out and creating something that there's a performance element for some of us, right? Where getting in the moment and like that switch going is like, okay, it's on. We got to make this happen.
Right. It's like fourth quarter game time. Like, this is it's crunch time right now, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah,
I love it. I know.
I do too.
Yeah, not everyone respects that.
Yeah, no. Cheers to that.
Always.
How do you you asked me the question, but okay, so I'll ask you.
Sure.
What are the things that you're doing to help keep you balanced and to be able to handle the responsibilities of owning your own and running your own business and having a family? You got a young family. Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
Yeah, and it's only getting worse. We're about 4 weeks away from baby number 2.
Alex, let's cut and re-edit and use a different word than worse.
It's only getting more challenging. It's getting more challenging. So we got baby number 2 on the way. He's about 4 weeks away. So, my mindset leading into this has been, hey, this has been a challenge to find this balance between work and family life this entire time. Now we're adding one more to the mix. And not just that, but my wife is really going to need more of my time, at least these first 6 months, So with all that being said, I'm actually on vacation right now. One of the things that I neglected, the main thing that I've neglected since I've started my own business was self-care. Taking care of me. I've stopped working out. I stopped reading like I used to. I stopped playing video games, which was kind of my outlet just to say, hey, step away from the
blow off some steam.
Come back to it. All of that stopped. Why? I'm working 12, 14-hour days. And in the very beginning, it was just me. So I'm doing all the animating. I'm doing all the shooting, coming back and doing all the editing, the audio mixing, like all of that stuff. So now it's like, okay, I've saw what life was like for the past year and change. Mm-hmm. Year 2, I don't want any of that anymore. I've got to get back into a better rhythm of things. Before I quit my job and went off to do this full time, I was waking up every day at 6 a.m. I was in a routine, working on the business, meditating, praying, working out, and then getting to my actual job and then coming home and doing more work. I was in a routine. I was great. Then I got comfortable, and then I also got busy, and a lot of that stuff fell to the side. So now I'm in a place of, hey, how do you protect home and ensure that this is going to sustain itself and it will last? I'm only one person. And one of the things that I noticed about myself is, and I'm very self-aware, I've noticed that every 6 months I have a crash where I wake up one day, nothing is flowing. No creative juices, no ideas, no will to work, nothing. And it's one of those days I'm sitting on my ass, like I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way I can function is to recharge for 12 hours and come back the next day and I'm back at it. That happens once every 6 months.
That's not too frequently, and that's a quick turn.
But here's the problem.
Right.
It happened in the beginning of May, and it happened again 2 weeks later. And that's when I knew, okay, I didn't even get 2 weeks in before this happened again. I've got to pay more attention to this. And now I'm being intentional and deliberate about carving out time to, hey, look, no family, no work. I just need me time. And it sounds selfish, but it's the most unselfish thing I think I can do for my family. If I take an hour or two every day just to say, hey, I'm going to spend this time playing basketball, or taking this time to work out, or to take a nap, whatever it may be, whatever your thing is, to recharge and reset and stay grounded, then I can come back and give my 110% back to my family again. When I'm operating the way I was for the past year, I'm bringing 50% of me, if that, back home. What are they going to do with that? What is my business going to do with that, with me being at 50% all the time?
Yeah, it's so easily overlooked.
Yeah.
Especially when you're passionate about what you do, and if you enjoy what you do, it becomes so easy to just be super enthralled with it and go crazy. And it does have consequences.
For sure.
I mean, I've had those same experiences. You know, I don't get sick often, but if and when I do, it's always when I've just run myself down to the point where I'm just like, I'm running on fumes and still pushing on, you know, and that's when I start, like, you know, just hammering coffee, or like, you know, more sweets, you know, just like start stimulating myself physically with like food or whatever. Just start making not good decisions. And it always leads in the same place for me. And I think, you know, like I got COVID like 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I'm damn sure that that's why I got it, because I had just been running myself hard and ran myself down and wasn't doing the best healthy things for me. And I feel like my physical state was more vulnerable at that point in time, and as a result, you know, I snagged it, and it took me 2 weeks to get through it. Unfortunately, you know, the side effects weren't bad. Yeah. But nevertheless, I mean, it was 2 weeks out of my life where I was pretty much just like, you know, not very useful.
Right.
And it, you know, and that happened. I'm not saying, listen, I mean, I don't want to say I got COVID because I was running down, but in my mind, that's what I believe. And anytime I've ever gotten sick, it's been the same way. I have those crash periods. It only lasts a day.
Yeah, same.
I don't get sick for days, but when it does, I'm like, you know, it's because I've been running myself like crazy. And it's a really hard thing to balance. And I don't think it's selfish to say I need time for me.
No.
Because if you don't, I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's you first.
Yeah.
I know we all say, you know, this is first and that first, and my wife and my family, and it is sort of like I don't know how to say this. It is, but if you're putting everything else before you, then you're not putting them before you.
Right.
Because what's happening is you're taking yourself to a place where you're not able to do what you need to do. And if that's what you're doing, then you're not really honoring your relationship and your respect to your family. You're doing a disservice to it by not giving yourself that time.
For sure.
And you know, you might find this helpful or not, but you know, my wife and I, we've got a very detailed schedule. This morning's her morning for working out. This is mine. Hers, mine, and it, you know, I mean, it's like an even rotation, alternates on Fridays. You know, she's got a night out, I've got a night out. You know, these are the nights we eat dinner at home, you know, and it's not perfect, but at least it gives us both that understanding of like, okay, I have this time. This is my time, and I can do whatever the fuck I want with it, you know? And, you know, my nights out are always here because I love it here. Like, this is my sanctuary. Right? So I'll stay here, and sure as shit, this Wednesday night, I'll have some boys over, we'll play music, and then when they leave, I'll still be here jacking around with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And she goes out and spends time with her friends and goes out and socializes. That's what she loves to do. This is what I love to do, but that is restorative.
Yeah. No, I get that.
You know?
There's a reason why they tell you to always put your mask on first before you try to help someone else on a plane. There's a reason.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right. Do you find yourself thinking like that analogy always pops up in my head
every time?
Like, whenever you think about stuff like
every
this.
time. My wife has been getting on my case about this self-care thing and taking care of my mental more. And every time she brings it up, that's the first thing I think about is like, well, how can I put their mask on if I'm like half dead, you know, struggling to breathe,
right?
You know, sinking under the pressure. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's super important. There's enough external factors that already add to, you know, what is already a stressful environment, and making it even worse. I mean, we're living in a time where, you know, you can't walk into the grocery store without a mask, or, you know, you're terrified of, you know, COVID or avian or whatever it may be. There's so many things out there that just make things more challenging than they need to be. So it's just crazy important just to protect that stuff and focus on, getting to a healthier place mentally, and the rest will follow suit. So, yeah.
I agree. I'm going to ask you a question that I asked John as well too. Is there a different sense of pride of ownership or sense of responsibility or accomplishment owning and running your own African American business in this day and age? I know your family's from Jamaica, so I don't want to
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So much terminology.
Nah. I'm not.
I say that with all respect.
I'm easygoing, I promise you. Well, I think the pride comes from me more so trying to execute and operate at a level of excellence. It's not about owning a business. This is nothing, new to me in a sense, because my dad's owned his own business since I was a kid. He has his own construction company. He's always had that. Mm-hmm. So being a business owner is nothing new to me. The pride comes in at what level are you operating in? And, you mentioned being an African American, owning a business. The thing that I take pride in is setting myself apart. Part of and obviously I don't expect you to understand or know, but a part of the African American experience, especially for me, is, what can I do to shine the best light on my community as possible? I'm fighting with not being a walking stereotype every day in my normal day-to-day life. Like, I make it a point not to be that stereotype, and it's exhausting. But you know what? I'm doing it because I want to show other African Americans, whether they're running their own business or whatever the case, or any minority for that matter, that you're not stuck to what the world says you are. You define your story. You write that story. And I want people to look at Blieve Media and see, the next huge production company, to see the Warner Brothers, whatever the case may be. I want them to look at it with that same level of respect, despite of who owns it or what color my skin is. I want them to see the excellence in the work that's being put out, the product. So I have to work a little bit harder, other than just saying, hey, I'm going to put out great stuff. Yeah, that's fine. But I'm also black. So I feel like I have to work 10 times harder just to prove my point.
It's a powerful and it's a heavy thing that you said. And I found myself almost like just only thinking about that as you said all the rest, in the sense that you feel that there is a burden and or a weight of having to go above and beyond, essentially to prove that you're a good person.
Right.
And I don't know that most people really understand it from that perspective. I don't know that most non-black people would think that might be what's on your mind, is this sort of burden of proof,
24/7.
That's
add in the fact that I have a young son who's about to be 4 and a second son on the way. My thoughts are always on them. They have to come up in this world, unfortunately, that looks at them almost as if they're, a target or a threat or whatever the case may be, simply because. So it's like everything I'm doing now is obviously to progress and gain success and create new opportunities for my family, all that for sure. But more importantly, what I'm doing right now with Blieve Media specifically is to set an example, to say, hey, look, you are the own author of this story. So if this is what you want to do, don't let anyone tell you that you can't because of your skin color or your creed or your religion, whatever the case may be. If this is what you want, go after it and do it with excellence. And yeah, the burden is heavy because I've got to do it right. They're not going to care about the words I say. Like, they're kids. They don't care about what you say. Mm-hmm. What are you showing them? So every single day when I put on my shoes and my pants and get out the house to go work, I've got to set an example. Not just to them, but also to the clients that, hey, there are black-owned businesses who are great businesses despite or irregardless of their skin color.
Big question. What has to happen in the world for that burden to be lifted from you and millions of others?
Everyone just needs to start thinking like me, for one. No, I'm kidding. I think it's just, I think people need to be more open to leaving space for others. When my wife and I, when we got married almost 5 years ago, we went through marriage counseling, just to, start off on the right foot or whatever the case may be. And something the pastor said to me that stuck with me to this day, She said the way that a good marriage works is if when you leave room for the other person to fit in, meaning that, hey, when we get into this marriage together, it can't just be all about me. I've got to leave some room for you to come in and to nest as well. And I think it's the same thing with society. I've got to leave room for the next person. I don't know what the Hispanic journey is like. I don't know what the Caucasian journey is like. I don't know what you're going through. So I have to leave room for you to come in and say, hey, you know what? I'm going through this or whatever I'm dealing with, and I need you to be understanding right now. I don't think that's a lot to ask. You have your own journey, and I just want to be cognizant of that. And I think we all need to be cognizant of others' journeys. And one really quick story. I was listening to a TED Talk one day, and it's nothing to do with race, but it'll really illustrate the point I'm making. The guy, he's an older gentleman. He's probably, I don't know, maybe in his early 50s, something like that. And he's talking about how when he was younger, he was bullied as a kid all the time. And to the point where he decided he bought a gun and was going to go into an elementary school and shoot all the kids in the school. He made up his mind this is what he was going to do. He was bullied at school and he was bullied at home by his parents. Terrible upbringing. He had this one friend that was always on his case. Hey, what are you doing today, man? Like, you want to go grab a drink? You want to go hang out, play some video games, whatever? Kept blowing him off. The guy kept blowing up his phone, calling him, never responded. So the day that he gets up now, packs his bag with the gun, the ammo, and everything, as soon as he hits the door to walk outside, there's a friend right in front of him saying, hey, man, you weren't answering your phone, so I came over. Do you want to go grab a drink? He says, okay, sure. And that stopped him from going on a completely different path. Why did I say this story, tell you the story? The simple fact that you don't know what the next person is going through. All that guy did was show him kindness. And it saved countless lives of young, innocent children. And no one would ever know. And that's the point that I'm making, that we don't know what everyone goes through. So leave room for compassion. I think that's it.
Yeah, I almost don't even want to say anything after that, because that is fundamentally the message of understanding and compassion and caring for each other.
Right.
And it happens in countless ways. It happens, sitting face to face with somebody and having a conversation like this and listening and understanding, right? What that person's going through or what you're being able to share. And there has to be, the safe zone, to some degree, to be able to put that stuff out there. But everybody's going through something that none of us truly understand. And I just think that there's so much that can be accomplished when people just sit down and find the commonality between each other.
And it's not hard to find.
No.
It's not hard to find at all. I mean, fundamentally, we're all the same.
Right?
We just want a great life, successful, whatever that looks like for you. We want to be able to take care of our families. We want to be able to express love and receive love. Our fundamental needs as human beings are the same. So in my mind, I'm like, if you know that this is what you need to feel, to feel loved and supported as a human being, what makes me or anyone else different from you in that regard? We all want the same thing.
Just like, slight different versions of those.
Sure, you may have different interests or whatever the case may be, but fundamentally, same exact.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, powerful message right there. I don't think that we need to add anything else to it right now. I'd like to leave it at that right now, because
Sure.
The whole point of this is to have these types of conversations, and I hope that more people keep to hear it. I hope a lot of people hear what you just had to say, because I think it's incredibly powerful. So,
same.
Alex Bailey, Blieve Media. How can everybody find you?
They can find me at blievemedia.com or Instagram /Blieve Media. No TikTok. I haven't gotten into it yet.
It's Satan's lair, man.
It's funny. I've only been on TikTok maybe twice, but when I first heard about TikTok, actually from Gary Vee. Gary Vee was the first person that I've ever heard mention TikTok before. Yeah. And he was like, it's the next Instagram. It's going to be the next big thing. And I look at him like, man, this seems like a platform for like 13-year-olds. I don't think I have time for this. And next thing I know, businesses are on there. People are on there. Like it's incredible. So yeah, It's coming at some point.
It's another one of those things, though, that whenever I see the real businesses insert themselves into it, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Seriously, because it is so authentically people expressing themselves in whatever kook fashion or beautiful fashion, whatever it is. There's a lot of craziness there.
For sure.
But when you see like the big company trying to do like the TikTok ad, it's so...
It's cringy. It's cringeworthy.
It's gross. It's really like, ugh.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
See, and that's my fear. I don't want to be that company. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just wait.
Yeah.
We're not ready yet.
We're going to do this again. I enjoy this greatly.
Likewise.
Very much. I appreciate you coming to take the time. I'm really happy for your success.
Thank you.
Your business. I enjoyed our conversation today. A lot of good stuff for people to hear, and best of luck on this vacation that you're taking for yourself. And even more warm wishes to you and your family as you guys are about to expand into more beautiful
moments and
challenging situations.
Yep. Back to those sleepless nights again. So that's going to be fun.
Well, it's a good thing that you are operating your own business and you have a little bit of flexibility.
Yes.
Because your wife's going to need that support.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you.
You got it. Cheers.
Success
Alex.
to you as well.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Peace.